Hey everyone, I always wanted to make a video called Used Car Buyer's Checklist for people to refer to, because for most people, when you're going to invest money into a car, during the process things can easily sidetrack us from checking very important, simple aspects of the vehicle itself. Whether it be like the excitement of the car that you always wanted that has finally depreciated into your price range, or something just happened to your car that has caused you to be carless and you need one quick, or even just a normal search in general, and the stress of just getting the car and the salesman coming right up to you and you're trying to fight down the price. All those factors can dissuade you from the car inspection and might make you rush through the process. Now, it could be overwhelming, definitely. Every used automobile has wear and tear, and there are many things you need to look out for. You can trust the dealership selling you the car only so much, although the one true way to build buyer's confidence to me in what you're buying is to check it for yourself. Okay, so now, many of us, we're not mechanics, so of course we cannot catch everything, but even looking with your eyes thoroughly, you can inspect a lot of the car and catch small problems that could be money pits down the line. So, this video, it may be a little long, but the information will be plentiful, and for your convenience, I'm gonna hopefully add some timestamp sections for you guys. But I'm gonna use my car here, my 04 G35, as an example. It's got about 150,000 miles on it. It would be good because it's a car that I've kept pretty, try to keep as clean as possible in the 5 years I've owned it and the over 10 years that it's been around. So it's a good car to inspect with, and probably what you'd see at a dealership, a clean looking car with possible flaws. So you know what, let's begin. So the first thing I would normally do before looking for a car is research the vehicle. I will do extensive research on forums, on Google, just the internet in general, just to find as much information for problems, for common issues that you may come up against when you own your car for a long term. Those kind of things I'm looking for. I'm looking for an abundant amount of people saying the same information. Some common information too. That's what makes it be a little more valid. If a lot of people talk about one problem, the car probably has a problem. So that's the first thing you could do, is research the vehicle. If it's a vehicle you're interested in and you really want, research that specific vehicle, because that's probably what you're looking for. Just make sure you know as much knowledge in the vehicle as possible. Next thing in the research category is to get a Carfax or an Autocheck history on your car. Those two things are very important. You don't need to get both. You can do one or the other. You want to find out a vehicle history, the service records, the accident reports. You want to find out about the car. That will also help you get a little more confidence in terms of knowing what you're getting into. You don't want to be testing a car that may have been in a flood or may have had a frame damage. You don't want to come across that later in the time period you own the car. You want to find out before you invest your money in it. So that's a very important thing to do. I would do that next on my list before I'm going out to look at the car. So the next thing I'm going to look into is mileage concern for higher versus lower. The car I'm going to get is going to be a higher mileage car. I definitely want the car to not have as many problems, because I know I'm going to need to inspect it a lot more efficiently and detailed than a car with lower mileage. A higher mileage car, you're getting into another realm of used and abused wear and tear, so the car's been driven for a lot longer, so what do you expect to happen? They're cheaper, they may stand out to you a lot more, ooh, I can get this car because it's so much cheaper, finally, yeah. But if it's high mileage, even though it's the car you've been always wanting, you might have a problem with other things in the future. You need to be aware that more problems could arise from a high mileage car versus low mileage. You get something low mileage, it'll be more expensive, but you're probably going to deal with less problems. But honestly, both those things, depending on manufacturer and make, are kind of things you need to look into, but can be negated because it's also how a manufacturer builds a car. The build of a car, whether it be high mileage or low mileage, the problems will always exist. So it comes down to still doing research. Research is key. Lastly, in the research section, I'm probably going to say you need to be observant. On cars.com, autotrader.com, these websites you will go to look at some cars you're going to go see eventually. You need to be observant of the way the ad is laid out. Ads that have minimal pictures, I'm talking about 1 to 2, 2 to 3, yeah, man, they may be a diamond in the rough. You know, you may find out that this car was the car when you go look at it. But for the most part, if you've got 1 to 2 pictures, 2 to 3, oh, no. They're hiding something. I assume they're hiding something. There should never be 1 to 2 pictures. There should be way more than that. It would take me to take pictures of my car detailed, at least 18. I would take 18 pictures, interior, exterior, the seats, the wheels. I would take plenty of pictures. Because again, that emits buyer's confidence for the individual looking at your photos in your ad. You want to sell your car, right? So you're going to put up more photos. That's what anything in terms of sales. I think that's basic sales. More pictures, more publicity. Look at the pictures. There shouldn't be a minimal like the 2 to 3 pictures. A car takes at least 16 to 20 at most. Some dealerships and Cars.com and Autotrader are adding in Carfax and Autocheck into their ads too. That also adds a level of buyer confidence. When they add it and give it to you for free, boom, you might know that they're either confident in their car, even if their car is an accident, they're confident in their car sale. They might be like, it's a small accident, but at least they're adding a level of confidence for you by adding that Carfax or Autocheck, by adding plenty of pictures. You could see everything right off the bat before even going to visit the car. Those are the kind of ads I actually trust. So look into that and keep that in mind while you're looking for a car online. So now you've decided on a car. You're gonna go look at it. The next step I would do is the dealership has left you alone with the keys. They're giving you a moment to inspect the car. You can look under the hood. Your test drive, you can do plenty of things like this. This is where things get kind of detailed. So first I'm gonna go look at the engine. I wanna inspect the engine because it's the life of the car. So I'm gonna pop the hood. Let's come on over here. And we're gonna look under this thing. Let's see what we're gonna find. You wanna definitely make sure your hood opens, because that would be a problem from the start. Okay, so right here you have the engine. So every engine will look a little different. It'll be a little differently laid out for you. I'm just using this Infiniti as an example again. If I were coming to look at this car, I had already done my research on it. I know where things pretty much are. I know where problems might arise. So being that this will be a different engine, other engines, especially if you're getting a later year car, I say like 2009 above, are mostly covered in plastic. It's going to be tough to see things in here or really know where things are unless you've done research, because everything is pretty much covered in plastic. There'll be plastic over here. There'll be plastic all around here, around. This whole thing looks like it'll be encased in a big cover. This is the only plastic we have on my car, but all over you're gonna have plastic. So it might be tough to find things or know where things are, but the plastic is a way for dealerships to say, hey, come back to us if you want us to fix your car, because it makes it a little scary. It makes you feel like there is no engine. At one point you were able to see the engine at one time. I can see my engine. It's right there. I can still see it. But imagine that's covered all around in plastic. I'd kind of feel a little nervous taking things off. So it's supposed to scare you a little bit. You know, it may look cleaner, but it's supposed to scare you from doing any work yourself. Yeah, the engine may look a little different. So don't let that kind of scare you away. You know, if you can, look around the plastic, Now, the first thing that stands out to me looking at this engine bay is I have an aftermarket intake. So this would be a red flag for me if I didn't put this on myself, because it would make me a little bit nervous. It's anything aftermarket, since I didn't do it, I don't know what the person before me was involved in or how much they worked on the car. It can be a little nerve-wracking because, you know, you don't know if they did it right or if they put it on correctly. If you're putting any modifications on the car, you want to buy a car stock. I mean, if you do want to buy a car with someone else's issues, you know, be my guest. Everyone's got their own preference, but I would be a little weary of purchasing into someone else's problems. I mean, my car, through the years know what problems come from the modifications I've done. But if you go and buy a car that has modifications in it, you're not getting a checklist like I'm doing here for someone else getting the car, a checklist on what problems or OCD type things they got to deal with getting into a car. They're not going to know what I've done and what problems come from what I've done. So if you see an intake or you see something that looks, if you're familiar and you've done your research again, if you see something that looks unfamiliar to you through pictures of stock engines of the car you want, I would be a little nervous because, again, you do not know what's been done. The person may have kept the car clean as hell, but you don't know. Be careful about that. I'm going to go now check some fluids. I want to make sure my fluids are topped off. Dealerships normally have topped them off, so let's just make sure everything's looking at the right level. So if you zoom in here, you know, that's my brake fluid right between min and max. Perfect. We've got my clutch fluid right between min and max. Awesome. I've got my dipstick. I'm not going to take it out because it's a little messy, but remove your dipstick and make sure the oil's within the right level. I would say you should definitely do that. Coolant, you know, there's usually a min max there. You know, the coolant's down there somewhere. Got my power steering fluid. I'm going to make sure that's, you know, within the right levels too. It looks like min and max there. I can't really tell, but it is. So you want to make sure your fluids are topped off and in the right level. I'm probably also going to check my belts. I can see my belt here. You might not be able to, but I'm going to check it, and I can see that it doesn't look frayed at all. It looks pretty solid. Yeah, the belt looks good. So you want to make sure that if you can see your belts, you might not be able to. Make sure the belts for the AC, things like that, are all looking pretty good. You don't want them to be cracking or anything. Over time, rubber breaks. You ever seen a rubber band? You know, rubber band that's been through heat and cold, extreme heat and cold, and I'm seeing all 4 seasons up here. Especially, and if you're within that kind of environment too. Yeah, rubber's rubber. It always starts to crack eventually. So keep an eye on that, and you could tell if that's going to be a problem right off the bat if you're able to see those belts under your hood. And now we'll come across here and we'll look at the battery. The battery is another thing that you want to make sure you're not seeing any corrosion on or anything. So my terminals look pretty clean, as you can see. We can see that the negative side looks pretty good, and we can see that the positive side looks pretty good here. So we're good on that. That looks pretty clean. If you are able to see hoses, if they're not covered in plastic, check your hoses too. Those are as well rubber. Make sure the hoses aren't cracking, because if you're buying a car that's over 10 years old and hoses were never really replaced, you know, you want to make sure that they look good. These hoses look good. I have hoses all over this car. Some hoses here. We got hoses coming off the back here. You want to make sure all your hoses are well, and all the connections here are looking good. So you can check your hoses. Again, we can't inspect it all, but we can inspect some of it. If you want to find some leaks, you might be able to see some leaks on the floor, on the pavement underneath the car where it's been parked. It's a good place to look if anything's been dripping there. You know, look under it, see if you see anything dripping. If you don't have it running, when you move the car, look under it and see if you see any kind of solution lying there on the floor. Because if there is anything there that's been created recently, it would look wet. It would look wet, and I suggest you touch it, because if it's oily, you know how oil feels compared to water. Oil's a little bit greasier, so that's a little bit of a red flag I'd throw there, especially if I just parked the car on some pavement that didn't have anything before, and now after leaving it for about, say, 5-10 minutes, after looking over things, I see a puddle under the car. That's not a good sign. Now, just want to put it out there that AC does create condensation, which then creates water dripping from under your car. So if you got your AC running, it's probably water. Just touch it, you'll know if it's water. It won't be greasy. So just keep an eye on that. Now, my car is a manual, so it doesn't have a reservoir for auto transmission fluid, but your car may have a reservoir or some area for automatic transmission fluid. You might want to check that stick as well. If it's a dipstick, if it's just a reservoir, keep an eye on that as well, because that's your transmission. If you have low transmission fluid, then you're not going to be shifting right. So you want to keep an eye on that. For manual transmissions, kind of tough for us to go into the car and look while we're doing a inspection of the car at a dealership to see the transmission fluid, because it's almost impossible to get to. It's in the tranny. So for automatic transmissions though, it's pretty much usually in the engine bay. You can check it out and see to make sure that it's at the right level. Another thing to look out for, and if possible test, is your check engine light. You want to make sure, I don't have mine on of course right now, but I'll show you which one in my car it is. It would be this light here. It says service engine soon. Some of them look a little different. But if you do see that light come on when you start the car, you definitely don't want to see that light, because your car can be throwing codes that can cost you a lot of money. So what dealerships sometimes do, depending on the used car dealership, not everyone has these practices, but they can easily reset this light so that when it's on the lot, or if someone's coming to look at it, it won't be on, as long as the car's not being driven, because it takes a few days, sometimes even actually turning the car on and off for that light to be reestablished and turned back on. So you might not see that light, but there may be problems. And the answer to that is this tool right here. Now you can invest in this tool. I think they're within probably $90 or less, so you can get them pretty cheap, especially if you search online. But it's an OBD2 reader, code reader. So it's got a plug for an OBD2 sensor here, and that would plug in under here, depending on the car that you have. It can be on that, it can be on the passenger side, it can be in a lot of different areas. You just need to be aware of where it is. But they have OBD1 and OBD2. OBD1 is the older technology, and those are probably going to be a little cheaper, but they're also different types of plugs. So you might have to look up which car you're looking for, which plug is accepted, or ECU system they're using. But this will plug in. It'll come up on the screen. You would press read, and then it would show you your codes on the car if it's throwing anything. Even if there's no light, it'll show you the code. So it's a very good precautionary tactic I would use to make sure that they haven't erased the code, the light is gone, and yet the car still has a problem, but it's not going to show you what that problem is. The best way to know what's happening behind the scenes is to invest in one of these code readers and just plug it right in. It takes about a minute, and it will make you feel so much more comfortable not saying it with it saying no codes thrown, and for buying the car. You won't be as nervous if you say you see no codes in here. So it's really good. It's good for, once you buy it once, you have it for life. So it's a good investment. So keep that in mind. It's definitely worth it to be able to run the codes in the car, because you never know if the dealership has cleared it and you're going to drive off that day with a car that has problems in the ECU that's been backed up and it's storing these codes. So definitely look into that. Here is my plug here. As you can see, that's my OBD2 plug. Depending on the year, OBD1 I think ran up to I don't know if it was in the 90s, and then OBD2 got established as the primary reader. But I'm not sure on the year, but also some European manufacturers don't support that reader as well. So you want to make sure that depending on the diagnostic tool that's used, you just do a little research. But that OBD1 and OBD2 reader can be used probably for any American and Japanese type model cars.